Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Wagner. On this segment, we are going to have another personal questions with Dr. T.
Hi, I'm Jillian Curwin. I am the founder and owner of Always Looking Up, the blog and podcast. And I am here today to just talk about what it is like to be a little person in an average-sized world. When I was first approached to Be and Being, I was a little hesitant just because the photographer had slid into my DMs, and I'm used to people photographing me on the street without my permission before because they think that I'm a little person, that I'm there for their entertainment. And so when I was approached, I was at first initially hesitant, but then I met with her, talked about the project, and knew this was something I wanted to be a part of. And from beginning to even now afterwards, it's been an incredible experience. She was amazing, and I had never seen myself or another little person photographed that way. So that was just, it's still kind of mind-blowing to me. Being is a photo project that kind of shows that all bodies are beautiful, that there's not one standard definition of beauty. And this year, the photographer expanded it to include persons with disabilities, which is when she asked me to do it. And we were kind of styled like the Renaissance queens that were traditionally all looked the same. So we were styled in this European way, but more high fashion, more editorial. And it was to show that really all bodies can be and really are beautiful. So Always Looking Up started as a blog and is also my podcast, and I decided to start it over a year ago because I had always been interested in fashion and never felt represented in the fashion industry. So I wanted to raise awareness and also just pursue it as a passion. It's something I love. And once the pandemic hit, I realized that there were more important things to talk about. It turned into a platform for me to advocate for disability awareness overall, and it's really grown beyond my expectations. And launching the podcast was a way for me to tell other people's stories, for me to have other people's stories heard, stories that I never got to listen to when I was growing up. So I'm hoping that the next generation of little people and people with disabilities and people in general are hearing these stories and are learning from them. I call it little but fierce, kind of copying the Shakespeare quote, though she is but little, she is fierce. So I had seen people do this before, where it's usually plus-size influencers will copy celebrity looks to show that fashion has no size. So I kind of turned that to fashion has no height limit either. So I have copied Jackie O. My first one was Kate Middleton. I've copied Meghan Markle, and I've really tried to just show that there's also no height limit to fashion because, again, little people really are not represented in the fashion industry. So it's kind of my way to say, hey, we're here, we're, being little, we're just as beautiful. So height is just a number, not a limit, means that just because I'm a little person, there's nothing I can't do. I think growing up, there's always been height requirements, whether for safety reasons or for just practical reasons or for reasons that I still don't understand. There's been height requirements that have, speaking for myself, stopped me from doing things that I probably could do and honestly wanted to do. So to say height is just a number, not a limit, means that being short doesn't mean I should be stopped from following my dreams, from being the person I want to be. I think at this time, representation of little people in Hollywood is very scarce. I think everybody knows who Peter Dinklage is and what he's done, and what he has done is incredible, but he's just one person, and there needs to be more, and more people need to be given the opportunity. I think that's where it needs to start, is just letting little people in through the door, into the casting offices, to give them the chance to be seen and say, hey, they could play a lead in a rom-com or a lead in a spy thriller. There shouldn't be a height requirement to that, and just, they have to be let into the room first and given the chance. And we're still not there yet. There's been a select few, but we have a long way to go. I think the reason why Crip Camp is so important to me is because I didn't know my own history up until watching that movie, and as an American, not knowing my history, not knowing of the disability rights movement in America, I felt kind of like ashamed, and I wish that, hopefully that movies like that will push for it to be taught in schools. So that way other people know and learn, because it's still ongoing. And I think if we want to keep moving in the right direction and making public facilities and private facilities and everything more accessible, we have to know the struggles it took to get here. And it's, as far as I'm aware, it's still not being taught in school, and I think that's where it really starts. But I think Crip Camp and seeing what they did and what they went through, it's kind of, for me, like, it's like that's the fight I want to be a part of. Like, I want to make my voice heard in this movement. Disability identity means not being afraid of the word disabled. I think growing up, speaking for myself, I used to be afraid. I didn't want to say I was disabled. I wanted to say I just do things like everybody else, just a little differently. But I think to be a part of the disabled community, one, that's beautiful in and itself, but then if you want certain accommodations made for you, if you want to feel seen, if you want to feel heard, you have to say that you are disabled. You have to take that term and embrace it. And I think whether you use person first or identity first language, that's up to you, but you still have to say that you are disabled. I think that there's no shame in saying you are, because it does mean you do things differently, that you can't do everything the way an able-bodied person can. And I think once I embraced it, I was able to find my voice, and I was able to start. I wouldn't have started the blog if I wasn't proud of the fact that I'm disabled. I wouldn't have started the podcast if I wasn't proud of the fact to say I was disabled. So I think that regardless of what kind of disability you have, if you want to be included in the community, in the movement, if you want to be heard, you have to say that you're disabled. You have to just at least embrace it.